Steve Kerr recently said on a radio interview he has a few things he wants Jonathan Kuminga to really improve this offseason in order for him to become the Warriors' number 2 for next season. Kuminga, one of my favorite players to watch this season. I love those players that continue to grow and show improvement year after year. And I think year 3 was obviously his best in the Bay Area and in the NBA. But if he improves on these 3 things Steve Kerr wants him to work on, could he possibly win more awards for himself and help the Warriors get back to the playoffs? That's what we're going to talk about here on Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I'm Allie Barefoot, and I know you guys love Jonathan Kuminga just as much as I love JK. So, going ahead and show him some love. If you're excited for Kuminga's future in the Bay Area, I'm really expecting a huge contract extension this offseason, or at least I think Kuminga deserves one. Go on ahead and like this video while we dive into what Steve Kerr had to say about Kuminga's offseason. Kuminga is definitely someone who has that potential. He will need to have a similar leap next year to the one he had this year, and I thought this year he played really well, and the game started to slow down for him. There were certain areas where if you're going to be that number 2 guy, then you have to be proficient. And he did have about 3 things he really wanted Kuminga to work on. While JK can improve multiple areas of his game, I do think that what we saw from 2022 to 23 is just a shell of what he can try and possess and bring out for this Warriors. Overall, I think the number 1 thing that Kuminga needs to work on, according to Steve Kerr, is catch and shoot game. Kuminga learned how to dominate the paint this season. Around the rim, he drew in defenders from multiple positions to try and stop him. That dunk and that rim game was phenomenal. But if he can learn how to make that catch and shoot towards the mid-range area as well, he could really be dominant. What he did this season when it comes to catch and shoot, the frequency, obviously that's not in his bag. He's only going to take 17.5% of those catch and shoot shots this season. But from the field, he shot 35% when it was off 0 dribbles. Not the best. 32% from a three-point line, which he doesn't have the best overall three-point shooting together. So when it is a catch and shoot, that's probably right about the area where he was shooting from a three-point line with a dribble or 2 in there as well. And then 49% effective field goal percentage. Once again, that can obviously go up. I would love to see that in the low to mid-50s if he is going to accelerate with that catch and shoot proficiency. However, JK wasn't completely useless when it came to catch and shooting. JK shot 52% from the field around that 10 to 14 foot area. As you guys can see, if he has a close defender on him, he's not afraid to take a contested shot, hand in his face, hand on his hip. He'll pull up with a catch and shoot right inside that three-point line, and he had a team high while doing this. But when he does have about 0 dribbles in his bag, he doesn't seem most confident enough to be able to separate himself from that defender, be able to run around that perimeter, pop inside the top of the key, and pull up a nice catch and shoot. I think JK in the paint, that's something you don't have to worry about. I think he's a dog. He showed that. He's not afraid of the size or the body, the physicality that comes down low in the Western Conference. He shot 62.1 effective field goal percentage with 0 dribbles. So he understands how to throw it, how to shoot it from wherever on that court with not having a single dribble take him. But if he takes that to the mid-range, instead of just having those 0 dribbles around the rim, which is where I think most of that effective field goal percentage does come from, obviously you pass down low, he's going to put it right back up. He understands that role. But if you put him in that mid-range where he does succeed 52% of the time, I think that 0 dribble catch and shoot, it should take off in this next season. So with that being said, what's something that Jonathan Kuminga needs to work on in the offseason? All you guys have to do is go on ahead and comment that down below. I think that Jonathan Kuminga has a lot of ceiling room still left to hit, and I do think that if he really works on knowing how to dish that ball, knowing how to catch and shoot, and especially working on a three-point game, which we're going to talk about here more towards the back half of the show, well, all you guys have to do is tell me what you think Kuminga should work on in order to be that number 2. Drop it down low. While you guys are doing that, I'll tell you guys about Prize Picks, the number 1 daily fantasy sports app in America right now. I'm playing it, and here's why you guys should too. It's super easy. All you got to do is pick between 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less. That is it. It takes less than 60 seconds. There are a ton of sporting events going on right now, especially with the NBA playoffs. You also got the MLB. You got NHL also in their playoff bag right now. So I'm just going to go with these 2 NBA picks here today. Jalen Brunson, I asked Marshall Green, host of Knicks Now, does Brunson have it in him to have more than 29 points? And he said, hey, he hasn't done the best in the playoffs, so I'm going to take less for Brunson. If you guys know me, less is never really my MO, but sometimes you got to take the less on it. I always like to pick the more, but that's just my preference. And then I got LeBron James have more than 9 assists. Just go on ahead and make your prize picks right now at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use that promo code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. And all you have to do is pick more or pick less. It is truly that easy. One of the other requests Steve Kerr had for Jonathan Kuminga to work this offseason on is stretching the floor. Like we said, he is dominant in the paint. When he shoots around the perimeter, he's not so great. So if he can find that mid-range to really be able to spread out those offense, spread out those defenders on him, because the minute you are going to drive to the basket, all those defenders are going to close in. That's what Steve Kerr was really talking about, how it was kind of tough to have JK in that small forward spot because they know what JK is going to do. While he is powerful and athletic in the paint, that's his only move right now. He can provide some in that mid-range, but if he is able to hit that mid-range more effectively and then even take it out further to the three-point line, I think that's where you get your number 2 for the Golden State Warriors. There's no question he is athletic enough to take over and stretch that floor. I've seen it before. I love how he is in transition, so he's got that part of his game down. But when he is on offense, I know he's going to drive 9 times out of 10. I have no problem with it. But that's going to be my number 2 if they do not re-sign Klay Thompson. If they let go of somebody like Chris Paul, I need somebody else to score that rock, and I want it to be JK. Plus, Steve Kerr doesn't like Jonathan Kuminga at that 3 spot. So when you've got Trey Jackson-Davis at the 5, Draymond Green at the 4, you're going to have to try and put Andrew Wiggins at the 3, which leaves Jonathan Kuminga out of that because he doesn't like the way that JK plays the small forward. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have the potential to eventually move up to that spot, but because he excels right now at the 4, Draymond Green has been there since TJD has been starting, and you're just not going to start JK over Draymond, at least not for Steve Kerr. But he said there is some hope to finally move JK more into that 4 spot, because he said offensively, he's still very much a power forward. He can become a 3, yes, but he has got to extend the range, become more comfortable shooting that 3-point shot, and improve his passing and playmaking. He's a capable playmaker, but fundamentally, he has to improve on his passing. That's something we'll be working on a lot this summer. So there's one thing I'm going to be really intrigued to see what JK brings in October. But overall, I think that when he starts to get that confidence of allowing to shoot that rock, he's going to be a lot more confident in assisting his teammates. As of right now, if you only have one move you really trust, and that's around the rim, you're not going to be that open to jump stopping in the rim, passing it back out, which I think is where his passing will come in once he understands the flow of the game a little bit better. But with that being said, like this video one more time. If you have Kuminga, if you think Kuminga is going to have another breakout year, if what he did in 2023 was just the surface of what he can bring to the Bay Area, I think year number 4 in the NBA should be 10 times bigger. He's got confidence. Like Kerr said, the game's slowing down for him. When he starts to really learn how to stretch the floor and hit all of his strides, he's going to be insane. Like this video, I bring up the third thing that Steve Kerr thinks Jonathan Kuminga needs to work on. What I think Jonathan Kuminga needs to work on as his 3-point game. Thankfully, you've got Steph Curry in your backcourt where you haven't always had to need every single player on that floor to drain a 3. But from Draymond Green to Andrew Wiggins to Kevon Looney, somebody in there has got to work on their 3-ball. I want it to be Jonathan Kuminga. There's no secret, but Podziemski knows how to shoot and ball handle as well. So if JK really wants to dominate that 3 spot, he's going to have to learn how to take it from downtown. Of course, he hasn't played 4 seasons in the NBA yet, so over the last 3 years, he's obviously not been that lethal from the 3-point line. 33% his rookie year. 37% was actually his career high here. 37% last season, and then 32% in 2023-24. Overall, he's averaging 34% from the 3-point line. That's not who I want my number 2 to be, at least not just yet. I do think that when you're working with the best 3-point shooter in the league, you've got a cheat code on how to develop your shot from downtown. You've got Steve Kerr, who has taught how the offense can dominate the NBA over the last decade. And I do think that his 3-point percentage right now is the only thing, I'm not going to say only thing, the main thing keeping him from being the solid number 2, Curry's go-to. Curry's not in. I have just as much confidence in Kuminga to put up in the plus while he is still on the court while Curry isn't. That's who my number 2 is. That's who Klay Thomspon was for me for the last decade. When Klay was on the floor, I knew both sides of the ball was covered. And I do think Jonathan Kuminga can be that, but I gotta trust his offense just a little bit more. Kuminga also knows what he has to do in the offseason, and that's what makes him so confident. That's what makes him a leader at such a young age, saying, I would say I'm very ready. I'm confident in the work that I'm going to put in this summer to come back and be that guy they're going to rely on sometimes. Keyword on sometimes there, because Steph Curry's still in the Bay Area. I'm going to rely on Steph Curry until he is no longer in the NBA. But to have Jonathan Kuminga, the fact that they almost traded him way last offseason proves that he is now deserving of that contract extension. If he works on those 3 key things, along with some other things like passing and really working on his defense, he's going to be an incredible two-way player. Count it, stamp it, record it, do whatever you need to. I'm calling it now. Jonathan Kuminga is going to have a better year next year than he did this one, which is going to be insane. So with that being said, do you think Jonathan Kuminga could be the number 2 next year in the Golden State Warriors? That means Klay Thompson doesn't come back. Maybe they let go of Chris Paul. Podziemski's even on the rise. He's made a vow for himself that he wants to be NBA All-Rookie team this year. So Podziemski's working. Can Jonathan Kuminga work harder and be that number 2? Comment why or why not. As always, if you guys love this show, if you love the Dubs, if you love Jonathan Kuminga, all you guys got to do to help out this channel is hit that like button.